The old clock in Wellington Manor struck 4 in the afternoon as He-jin's automated car drove through the tall iron gates. The autumn wind made the orange and red leaves dance across the long driveway. He-jin watched through the car window as the grand old house came into view. The building was made of honey-colored stone that seemed to glow in the afternoon sun. He-jin had been Earth's ambassador to the stars for 3 years now. She had visited more planets than she could count and met beings of all shapes and sizes. But right now, all she wanted was to rest in this beautiful old house on Earth. Her doctor had told her she needed a break. Even ambassadors need holidays, he had said with a kind smile. The car stopped at the front steps of the manor. He-jin stepped out and took a deep breath of the crisp autumn air. It smelled of fallen leaves and wood smoke. This was so different from the clean, filtered air on spaceships and space stations. A soft voice came from somewhere above her head. "Welcome to Wellington Manor, Ambassador He-jin. I am Aria, the house's caretaker. I hope you had a pleasant journey." He-jin looked up and smiled. She knew Aria was an AI, but the warmth in its voice made it sound very human. "Thank you, Aria. The journey was very nice. I've been looking forward to this visit for months." "Your room is ready," Aria said. "Would you like me to have someone bring your bags up?" "No need," He-jin said, touching the small silver disc on her wrist. Her luggage shimmer shifted from the car's trunk directly to her room. Even on vacation, some space technology was too useful to give up. The front door opened by itself, and warm air wrapped around He-jin like a soft blanket. The grand entrance hall was everything she had hoped for. A wide wooden staircase curved up to the next floor. Old paintings hung on the walls, and soft rugs covered the wooden floor. Everything looked old and elegant, but not dusty or worn. Aria was clearly very good at its job. "Your room is on the second floor," Aria said. "Would you like to go up now, or would you prefer some tea first? The drawing room has a lovely view of the gardens." Before He-jin could answer, she heard a familiar voice from the top of the stairs. "He-jin, is that really you?" She looked up and broke into a big smile. "Do-young, what are you doing here?" Do-young came down the stairs, grinning. He was wearing casual Earth clothes instead of his usual diplomatic uniform. "The same thing as you, I guess. Taking a break from all those space meetings." He-jin hadn't seen Do-young in person for almost a year. They often talked over Spacecom, but it wasn't the same. Do-young worked at the Seoul Interstellar Embassy, handling Earth's relations with the Luminian Empire. His job was just as busy as hers. "Aria," He-jin said, "I think we'll have that tea in the drawing room." "For 2, please." The drawing room was just as lovely as Aria had promised. Big windows looked out over gardens where the autumn colors were in full show. A fire crackled in the fireplace, and 2 comfortable chairs waited for them. A silver tea set appeared on the small table between the chairs just as they sat down. "This is perfect," Do-young said, pouring tea for both of them. "You know, I almost didn't take this vacation. There's always one more meeting, one more document to read." He-jin nodded. "I know what you mean. Yesterday, the Centauri ambassador wanted to discuss trade routes again. I told him it had to wait until next week." "The Centauri," Do-young laughed. "They're the ones with 6 arms, right? Always typing on multiple devices at once." "That's them. Very efficient, but they never seemed to rest." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, sipping their tea and watching the gardens. The sun was starting to get lower, making the autumn leaves look like they were on fire. "Did you know," Aria's voice said softly, "that this house was built in 1789? It has seen a lot of history. Kings and queens visited here, and now it welcomes visitors from other worlds." "It's amazing how much has changed," He-jin said. "Sometimes I look at pictures from just 50 years ago, before first contact. Humans thought we were alone in the universe. Now I spend my days talking to beings from hundreds of different worlds." Do-young put down his teacup. "But some things haven't changed, like this house. like drinking tea with an old friend. Hejin was about to agree when a soft chime sounded. Aria's voice had a slight note of surprise. I apologize for the interruption, but we have an unexpected situation. A Luminian diplomatic vessel is requesting emergency landing permission. They report a minor malfunction in their navigation system. Do Young sat up straighter. Luminians? Here. Yes, Aria said. Their ship is quite small. Only 3 passengers. They say they can make repairs themselves but need a safe place to land. As this is a certified diplomatic emergency location, we have to let them land. Hejin finished. She looked at Du Young. So much for a quiet afternoon. But Du Young was smiling. The Luminians are the most formal and proper beings I've ever met. I've never seen them in a casual setting. This could be interesting. Hejin stood and straightened her clothes. Even in casual wear, an ambassador had to look presentable. Aria, please tell them they have permission to land. Where's the designated landing area? The East Lawn, Aria said. I've already activated the landing lights and safety fields. Would you like to watch from the terrace? It has the best view, and I can keep you warm despite the evening air. They followed Aria's directions to the terrace. The sun was setting now, painting the sky in purple and orange. The landing lights made a perfect circle on the lawn, glowing softly in the growing darkness. Look, Du Young pointed up. A ship was coming down, its crystal-like surface catching the last rays of the sun. It was small for a diplomatic vessel, about the size of an Earth bus. But it was beautiful. Like all Luminian ships, it looked like it had been carved from a single piece of crystal. The ship landed as softly as a falling leaf. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then a door in the side of the ship opened, glowing with a soft blue light. 3 Luminians stepped out. They looked like tall, elegant crystals that had decided to take a walk. Their bodies caught the light from the landing area and broke it into tiny rainbows. Hejin had met Luminians before, but they never stopped being beautiful. Well, Hejin said to Du Young, it looks like our quiet evening just got more interesting. The Luminians were walking toward the house now. Their movements were graceful, almost like they were floating. Hejin could hear the soft chiming sounds they made when they talked to each other. Should we go down to meet them? Du Young asked. Hejin nodded. Yes. But first, she turned slightly. Aria, could you prepare some more tea? And maybe turn on the special lights in the drawing room. The ones that make rainbow patterns. Already done, Aria said, and Hejin could hear the smile in its voice. I think our unexpected guests will feel right at home. As they walked back into the house, Hejin felt surprisingly happy about this interruption to her quiet vacation. Sometimes the best moments happened when you least expected them, and watching the sunset with crystal beings from another world, that wasn't a bad way to spend an evening at all. The old clock struck 5, its deep chimes echoing through the house. Outside, the autumn wind kept playing with the leaves, and the crystal ship glowed softly on the lawn. Inside, Wellington Manor prepared to host a very special gathering, just as it had been doing for hundreds of years. The only difference was that now its guests came from much, much further away. Hejin and Du Young reached the front door just as Aria opened it for the Luminian visitors. The evening was about to become very interesting indeed. The 3 Luminian visitors stood in the entrance hall of Wellington Manor, their crystal bodies creating small rainbows on the wooden walls. Hejin had met many Luminians before, but seeing them in this old earth house was something special. The tallest one stepped forward and made a sound like gentle wind chimes. I am Spark of Dawn, the Luminian said, their voice translating automatically through the manor systems. With me are Twilight Whisper and Morning Chime. We are most grateful for your permission to land. Hejin bowed slightly, knowing that Luminians appreciated this gesture. Welcome to Wellington Manor. I am Ambassador Hejin, and this is Ambassador Du Young from the Seoul Interstellar Embassy. Du Young also bowed. We hope your ship's problems aren't too serious. The second luminion, Twilight Whisper, made a tinkling sound that Heijin recognized as their version of a laugh. Just a small problem with our navigation crystal. It needs to reset for about 12 Earth hours. We hope we are not disturbing your rest time here. Not at all, Heijin said warmly. Aria, could you show our guests to the drawing room? I think they'll enjoy the special lighting there. Aria's voice came softly through the air. Of course. Please follow the path of lights on the floor. A trail of gentle lights appeared on the wooden floor, leading toward the drawing room. The luminions moved gracefully, their crystal bodies catching every bit of light. Morning Chime, the smallest of the three, stopped to look at an old painting on the wall. This building, Morning Chime said, it holds so much time in its walls. We can feel it. On our world, we grow our buildings from living crystal. They are always changing. But this is different. This is history made solid. Heijin hadn't thought about it that way before. The manor is over 300 years old, she explained as they walked. It was built long before humans knew about other worlds and other beings. They entered the drawing room, and Heijin heard the luminions make sounds of delight. Aria had outdone itself. The room was filled with soft, shifting lights that bounced off the crystal chandelier. The evening sky outside the windows was deep purple now, making the room feel magical. Please, sit wherever you feel comfortable, Du Young said. The luminions chose to arrange themselves near the fireplace, where the flames made their bodies sparkle even more. Would our guests like some refreshments? Aria asked. We have energy crystals that might suit your taste. That would be most kind, Spark of Dawn said. A moment later, a small tray floated into the room. On it were 3 glowing crystals in different colors. The luminions made happy chiming sounds when they saw them. These are perfectly tuned, Twilight Whisper said, picking up a blue crystal. You understand our needs well. Aria is very good at taking care of guests, Heijin said proudly. She and Du Young sat down in their chairs again, picking up their teacups. The scene was strange but wonderful. Humans drinking tea while crystal beings absorbed energy from glowing stones, all in a room that had seen centuries of history. If I may ask, Du Young said carefully, what brings you to this part of Earth? Most Luminian ships use the main spaceports. We were on our way to a cultural exchange meeting in London, Morning Chime explained. Our ship is small because we wanted to experience Earth travel the way humans do, taking our time, seeing the countryside. We did not expect the navigation crystal to need resetting. But perhaps it is not an accident, Spark of Dawn added. Our people believe that sometimes problems lead us to where we need to be. And this place, it has a special energy. Heijin understood what they meant. Even without being able to sense energy like the Luminians could, she felt there was something special about Wellington Manor. Maybe it was the weight of all the history it had seen, or maybe it was something else. Aria, she said, would our guests like to hear about the manor's history? I would be happy to share, Aria replied. The lights in the room dimmed slightly, and soft images appeared in the air. They showed the manor as it had looked when it was first built, then through different times in history. Wellington Manor was built in 1789, Aria began. It has been a home, a hospital during war times, and now a place of rest for people from all worlds. If these walls could talk, they would tell stories of balls and quiet afternoons, of important meetings and peaceful gardens. The Luminians watched the images with great interest. Their bodies seemed to pulse gently with different colors as they learned about the manor's past. Morning Chime especially seemed fascinated by a picture of the manor's first family. The humans who built this, they said, did they know it would last so long? Did they know it would one day welcome beings from the stars? Probably not, Du Young answered with a smile. But they built it to last, to be beautiful, to be a place where people would feel welcome. And it still does all those things, even for guests they couldn't have imagined. A soft chime sounded through the room. I apologize for the interruption, Aria said, But Young Ho, our chef, would like to know if our guests will join us for dinner. He has experience preparing visual arrangements that Luminians can appreciate, while also serving traditional Earth food for our human guests. The three Luminians looked at each other, their crystal bodies flickering with quick colors that Hejin knew meant they were talking among themselves. Finally, Spark of Dawn turned to them. "We would be honored," they said. "We have heard that Earth food is as much art as sustenance. While we cannot eat as you do, we can appreciate the patterns of energy in well-prepared food." "Wonderful," Hejin said. "Young Ho will be so pleased. He loves creating dishes that both humans and non-humans can enjoy." As if on cue, the smell of cooking began to drift into the room. It was a mix of familiar Earth spices and something new, probably special ingredients Young Ho used to make his dishes visible to Luminian senses. "Until dinner is ready," Araya said, "would our guests like to see the conservatory? The night sky is particularly beautiful through its glass ceiling, and we have some earth plants that create interesting energy patterns." The Luminians agreed eagerly. As they all stood to go to the conservatory, Hejin caught Du Young's eye. They shared a smile. This was not the quiet evening they had planned, but it was turning into something much more interesting. The group walked through the manor's halls, their way lit by Araya's gentle lights. The Luminians asked questions about everything they saw: the paintings, the furniture, even the carpets. They were especially interested in things that showed signs of age, like the slightly worn spots on the stair railings where hundreds of hands had rested over the years. In the conservatory, Araya dimmed the lights so they could see the stars through the glass roof. The Luminians stood very still, their crystal bodies reflecting the starlight. They began to hum softly, creating a beautiful harmony that made the air itself seem to vibrate gently. "We sing to the stars," Twilight Whisper explained when they finished. "It is our way of connecting with the universe. Usually, we do this in our crystal cities, but doing it here, in this Earth building, under these stars, it feels different. Special." Hejin felt honored to have heard their star song. She knew Luminians didn't often share this ritual with others. Something about this evening was breaking down the usual formal barriers between their species. The manor's old clock struck 7, its deep sounds mixing with the last echoes of the Luminian song. Soon, they would have dinner, and Hejin was sure Young Ho would create something amazing. But for now, they all stood quietly under the stars, sharing a moment of peace in this unexpected gathering. Through the glass roof, Hejin could see Earth's moon rising. Its light made the Luminians' crystal bodies glow softly. She thought about how strange and wonderful it was that this old house, built when humans thought they were alone in the universe, was now a place where beings from different worlds could feel at home together. The dining room at Wellington Manor glowed with warm light as Young Ho made his final preparations for dinner. He had been the manor's chef for 5 years, and in that time, he had served guests from 20 different worlds. But tonight was special. It was his first time preparing a meal for Luminians. "Everything is ready," Young Ho said, stepping back to look at his work. The long dining table was set with care. On one side were traditional place settings for Hejin and Du Young, with fine china plates and silver cutlery that sparkled in the light. On the other side were special crystal platforms for the Luminian guests, designed to display food in a way that let them experience its energy patterns. Araya's voice came softly through the room. "Shall I invite our guests to dinner?" "Yes," Young Ho said, adjusting one last fork. "The timing is perfect." In the conservatory, Hejin and the others were still watching the stars when Araya's gentle chimes announced dinner. The group walked to the dining room, and Young Ho felt proud when he heard the Luminians make sounds of surprise and delight when they saw his arrangements. "Please, sit wherever you feel comfortable," Young Ho said, bowing slightly. He had studied Luminian customs carefully and knew they appreciated both the gesture and the freedom to choose their places. The 3 Luminians arranged themselves along one side of the table, their crystal bodies casting rainbow patterns on the white tablecloth. He-jin and Do-young sat opposite them. Young-ho stood at the head of the table, ready to explain each dish. "For our first course," he said, as serving carts moved silently into the room, "I have prepared a soup that honors both Earth and Luminian traditions." The carts placed bowls of clear soup in front of He-jin and Do-young. The soup was almost transparent, with tiny vegetables and herbs floating in perfect patterns. For the Luminians, similar patterns were created using pure energy, hovering above their crystal platforms. The vegetables are arranged to match the energy flow of a traditional Luminian greeting dance, Young-ho explained, and the broth is made from crystal-clear spring water, infused with herbs from the manor's garden. Spark of Dawn leaned close to their platform, their crystal body pulsing with interested colors. "The energy patterns are perfect," they said. "We can see the dance in them. This is art." He-jin tasted her soup and smiled. "It's delicious," she said. "I can almost feel the energy patterns myself through the arrangement of the ingredients." Young-ho beamed with pride. He had spent weeks planning this menu, even though he hadn't known his guests would be Luminians. He believed that good food could bring any beings together, whether they ate it or experienced it in other ways. As they enjoyed the first course, Do-young asked the Luminians about their homeworld. Morning Chime's crystal body sparkled as they described cities made of living crystal, where buildings grew and changed like plants. "Our cities sing," Morning Chime said. "The crystal buildings resonate with each other, creating music that changes with the movement of our three suns." "That sounds beautiful," He-jin said. "I visited your world, but I've never heard it described that way before." The second course arrived as they talked. Young-ho had prepared a dish that looked like a small garden. For the humans, it was made with colorful vegetables and edible flowers. For the Luminians, it was a complex pattern of energy fields that mimicked the growth of plants. "This reminds me of the crystal gardens of dawn," Twilight Whisper said, watching the energy patterns shift and grow. "But it also feels very Earth-like. How did you achieve this balance?" Young-ho stepped forward again. "I studied recordings of your world's crystal growth patterns," he explained. "Then I tried to match them with the natural growth patterns of Earth plants. The energy fields you see are shaped by the same mathematics that guide how our flowers grow." The evening continued this way, with each course bringing new conversations and connections. Young-ho served dishes that told stories of Earth's seasons, of Luminian crystal songs, of the way all living things shared certain patterns. During the main course, He-jin told the story of her first spaceflight. "I was so nervous," she admitted. "Humans had only been part of the galactic community for 10 years. I was one of the first ambassadors sent to represent Earth." "We remember when humans first joined the galactic community," Spark of Dawn said. "Many species were unsure about you. You were so young as a spacefaring race, but so eager to learn and share." "Young but old at the same time," Twilight Whisper added. "Like this manor, you build things to last. You value your history, but you're always looking to the future." Do-young nodded. "That's true. Sometimes I think that's why so many species enjoy visiting Earth. We're a mix of old and new, of tradition and progress." As they talked, Aria kept the lighting perfect, shifting it subtly to match the mood of each conversation. The old manor's dining room, which had hosted countless dinners over the centuries, now held a gathering its builders could never have imagined. For dessert, Young-ho had prepared something special. As the serving carts came in again, the lights dimmed slightly. What appeared on the table looked like a miniature galaxy made of spun sugar and light. For the humans, it was an edible work of art. For the Luminians, it was a complex dance of energy that matched the sugar's spiral patterns. "In honor of our unexpected meeting," Young-ho said, "I present a dessert that celebrates the galaxy we all share. The spiral arms are made of sugar that took 3 days to spin. The energy patterns follow the actual shape of the Milky Way." The Luminians began to hum softly, their crystal bodies glowing with gentle colors. The hum matched the spiral pattern of the dessert perfectly. Hejin and Du Young sat very still, not wanting to interrupt what seemed like a special moment. "We add our song to this art," Morning Chime explained. "It is our way of showing the highest appreciation. Young Ho, you have created something that speaks to both our peoples. This is true cultural exchange." Young Ho bowed deeply, touched by their response. He had cooked for many important beings, but this simple dinner, created for unexpected guests, felt like his greatest achievement. As they enjoyed the dessert, the conversation turned to stories of other cultural exchanges, other moments when different species had found common ground. The Luminians shared tales of their first meetings with other crystal-based life forms. Jin and Du Young told stories about human diplomats learning to communicate with beings very different from themselves. Through it all, the old manor held them in its warm embrace. The fire crackled softly in the fireplace, the antique clock ticked steadily, and the stars shone through the windows. It was a perfect example of how the best diplomatic meetings often happened not in formal conference rooms, but in comfortable places where beings could relax and be themselves. As the evening drew to a close, Young Ho brought out one final surprise: special crystals that the Luminians could take with them, programmed with the energy patterns of each dish he had served. "So you can share this experience with others," he explained. The Luminians' bodies glowed with joy as they accepted this gift. "We will add these patterns to our crystal libraries," Spark of Dawn said. "They will become part of our world's memory of Earth." Hejin looked around the table at her fellow dinner guests, human and Luminian, and thought about how a simple ship malfunction had led to such a wonderful evening. Sometimes the best moments in diplomacy happen by accident, in unexpected places, over good food and friendly conversation. The morning after the wonderful dinner, Hejin woke early to watch the sunrise from the manor's garden. The autumn air was crisp and clear, and a light mist floated over the grass. She found she wasn't alone. The 3 Luminian visitors were already outside, their crystal bodies catching the first rays of sunlight. "Good morning," Hejin said softly. "Did you rest well?" The Luminians turned to her, their bodies glowing with warm colors. "We do not sleep as you do," Spark of Dawn explained, "but we spent the night in peaceful meditation. This place has remarkable energy patterns at night. The manor's stones hold centuries of memories," Morning Chime added. "We could feel them singing to us all night long. Your buildings may not grow like ours, but they are alive in their own way." Hejin hadn't thought about it that way before. She looked at the old manor with new eyes, seeing it as the Luminians did, not just as a beautiful building, but as a keeper of memories and stories. Aria's voice came gently through the morning air. "Young Ho has prepared breakfast, if you would like to join us in the garden. He has set up a table where we can watch the sun rise completely." They walked to a spot where Young Ho had arranged a beautiful breakfast. For Hejin, there were fresh pastries, fruits, and a pot of steaming tea. For the Luminians, there were morning energy patterns that danced above special crystal plates. Du Young joined them a few minutes later, wrapped in a warm jacket. "I couldn't miss our last meal together," he said, sitting down at the table. "Has your ship's navigation crystal finished resetting?" "Yes," Twilight Whisper said. "We could leave whenever we wish, but—" They paused, their crystal body shifting through thoughtful colors. "We have been talking. This unexpected stop has given us an idea," Spark of Dawn continued. "In our culture, we believe that accidents often lead to important discoveries. Our ship's problem brought us here, and we have experienced something special, a way of interaction that feels more real than our usual diplomatic meetings. We would like to suggest," Morning Chime said, "that Wellington Manor be considered as a place for informal diplomatic gatherings. Not for big meetings or official treaties, but for the kind of peaceful exchanges we have shared here." Hejin felt excited by this idea. "That's brilliant. Sometimes the best diplomatic work happens in comfortable places like this, where we can relax and be ourselves." "The manor does have all the right qualifications," Aria added. We're already certified for diplomatic emergencies. We have experience hosting beings from many worlds, and Young Ho can prepare food for almost any species. Young Ho, who had come to check on breakfast, smiled at this mention of his skills. I would be honored to cook for more interstellar guests, he said. Every new species teaches me something about the art of food and energy. Do Young was already thinking like a diplomat. We would need to be careful about how we present this idea, he said. It should stay informal, a quiet retreat where diplomats can build real understanding away from official pressures. The Luminians agreed, their bodies chiming softly. That is exactly what we mean, Spark of Dawn said. A place where beings from different worlds can share meals, stories, and peaceful moments, just as we have done. As they talked about this idea, the sun rose higher in the sky. The morning mist began to clear, revealing the manor's beautiful gardens in their autumn colors. A gentle breeze made the leaves dance, and somewhere in the distance, birds were singing. You know, He Jin said thoughtfully, when I came here, I was just looking for a quiet place to rest. I never expected to help start something new. The best things often happen unexpectedly, Araya said. This house has seen many changes over the centuries. Being a place where Earth welcomes peaceful visitors from the stars, that seems like a natural next step in its history. After breakfast, they all walked to the east lawn where the Luminian ship waited. In the morning light, it looked even more beautiful than when it had landed, its crystal surface reflecting the autumn colors around it. Before we go, Twilight Whisper said, we would like to share something with you. The three Luminians arranged themselves in a triangle and began to hum. Their crystal bodies glowed with shifting colors, creating patterns that seemed to dance in the air. This is a song of friendship, Morning Chime explained between notes. We are encoding it into the manor's crystal chandeliers. Whenever Luminians visit in the future, they will hear this song in the crystals and know that they are welcome here. He Jin and Du Young watched in wonder as the song filled the air. Even though they couldn't see the energy patterns as the Luminians did, they could feel the beauty of the music. It seemed to become part of the manor itself, another layer of history added to its ancient walls. When the song ended, Spark of Dawn turned to Jin and Du Young. We will tell others about this place, they said. Not in official reports, but in the way we share stories of beautiful discoveries. We think many will want to visit, and we'll do the same, He Jin promised. There are many diplomats like us who would appreciate a place like this, somewhere they can relax and make real connections with beings from other worlds. The Luminians prepared to board their ship, but Morning Chime turned back one last time. You humans are young among the stars, they said, but you understand something very important, the value of old places, of comfort and welcome. This manor is a perfect example of that understanding. As the crystal ship rose gracefully into the morning sky, He Jin and Du Young stood watching with Young Ho and Araya. The ship caught the sunlight and scattered it in beautiful patterns across the lawn before disappearing into the blue autumn sky. Well, Du Young said with a smile, this wasn't quite the quiet holiday we planned. No, He Jin agreed, it was better. We came here looking for rest, but we found something more important, a new way to help different beings understand each other. They walked back to the manor together. The old clock struck 9, its familiar chimes echoing through the halls. He Jin thought about all the changes this house had seen over the centuries, and now it was beginning a new chapter, becoming a place where beings from across the galaxy could find common ground. Araya, she said, I think I'll be visiting more often, and I might bring some friends from other worlds. You will always be welcome, Araya replied warmly. After all, bringing people together in peace and comfort, that's what this house has always done best. The autumn wind rustled through the colorful leaves, and Wellington Manor stood proud in the morning sun. Its old stones had welcomed guests for hundreds of years, and now they would welcome visitors from the stars. Some things had changed greatly since the house was built, but its most important purpose remained the same. being a place where all could feel at home, no matter how far they had traveled to get there.